So you guys know that this podcast has become a bit of a hobby for me. So we're here, we're catching a vibe. We don't really take this too serious, but serious enough to want to get on and share my thoughts because, I see that someone's listening. So I hope that this podcast episode finds you well. I was sitting here thinking about the Keke Palmer situation. And though it feels like it could possibly be staged, it feels like it could be some possible PR stunt, there's a bigger picture that a lot of people are missing. And what I realized for myself, I used to think that as a Black woman, because I talk about this, Black women, promiscuity, sexuality, and desirability. As a Black woman, I used to think that sex was it, right? We tell young girls, the best thing you got is in between your legs. The best thing you got is in between your legs, right? We don't tell young girls that, no, the best thing you got is in your mind. You see, when a woman breaks up with a man or the situation doesn't work out, it's her spirit, it's her mind that's being tormented. It's not the sex that they had. The people don't want to believe it, but women can get down and have sex with a man if she pleases and go on about her day. So that's not the most valuable thing. That's to a woman, it's the mind. But you know what I realized as I'm doing my research in regards to youth advocacy, and this is why I'm so passionate about the youth. This is why I'm so curious to learn about young boys and the developmental psychology of a Black male, because it's very clear to me that Black men are very, very behind on the ball wagon. They are failing in regards to leadership, and so many of them never grow up. So what I realized was, so many Black women, so many of us, my sisters, okay, we feel as though we have nothing else to offer but our sex. So in the Keke Palmer situation, you with this guy who's not marrying you, you're here with him, you decide to, let me just try to be in this situation with this man who really has nothing to offer me. You know why? Because men sit here and talk about money, money, money. And the reason being, because men are external, right? Men are external. God gave Adam work. Right? Adam had a sense of purpose that we could all see. Women are internal. See, a woman, her spirit, you can feel her spirit. You can feel the love. You can feel the work she's putting in herself. You can see you can feel and sense her presence by what God is doing through her. Women are womb. You see what I'm saying? So when it comes to the man is external. You look at a man's life, it's not together. He's not self-actualized. He's not walking in purpose. He's done nothing with all this time he's been here on this earth. That's a very sure sign that is not a man who's ready to be developed. That is not a man who has stepped into the realm of development. Okay. That's an underdeveloped man. That's a man who doesn't know who he is. Right. And so what you have is so many women, myself included. I've made so many mistakes in regards to dating, thinking that, this guy is just here for sex. This is the most beautiful thing. Not realizing that the reality was that most Black men read on a 4th grade level. Outside of that, most Black men they don't see. What I realized was that so many men, they want to gauge you sexually because they can't gauge you intellectually. You see, when we listen to men, everything that they know, everything they've been taught, for the majority, it has been through women. I think what's so unfortunate is how we can never reign together on this earth as king and queen, because so many men don't know who they are. They never know who they are. They want to talk all this stuff about the Bible. How is this? How is that? Black men in this world are put on this fetishized trophy kind of like pedestal in America, in society, period. I don't know if it's because they simply were slaves and they built this nation, and their strength and all of those things is seen as something that's admirable. I don't know if it's just due to the hypersexuality of Black men like it is due to Black women, but it's just very clear to me that men don't realize that so much of what they are, so much of all this wisdom that they have, all these things that they're trying to talk about, is coming from a woman. So you have a lot of people who are delusional. You have a lot of men who will never really know what it's like to move on, right? Leave your mother, cleave to your wife. Because it's like you're in a society that coddles you. You're in a society that caters to you. You're in a society to where women want you because of the sex. Right? You don't even realize how dangerous that is. You don't even realize how the hypersexuality is traumatic, how that's degrading, how that's beneath you. And so what you have is so many men who have no self-esteem. They have no sense of purpose in life. And when you are a woman and you give birth to a man's child who hasn't even made you his wife, who hasn't even given you anything but lip service, probably about what you are doing, what you're not doing, because he critiquing you, because while you at work doing what you got to do, he at home, or he out here trying to figure it out. So he's got nothing to do but to sit and talk about you and try to tear you down because you're representing everything that he is not. You see what I'm saying? Come on, somebody. Like, this is the breakdown in relationships. And so with Keke Palmer, listen, you try to find a sisterhood today, the girls telling you the same thing. Because guess what? Women ain't growing either. You got grown women ain't growing from the mistakes either. They're not learning. By the grace of God, I'm so thankful I got some wisdom. I can be able to look back over my experiences and share what I've learned. You know what I mean? So you got all these women who are older who should be able to mentor you and steward you on some things in life, telling you, girl, he ain't acting right. He acting like you ain't this in the bed. He acting like since you had that baby, you're not attractive, girl. Go outside and show a little something. Let these guys know what's up. And so that's what it becomes. That's what it becomes. And it's so unfortunate because it's so degrading. And I realized for myself, no, baby, there's nothing wrong with you. There's nothing wrong with you. These guys, they can't gauge you intellectually. And one thing I've learned? People talk about Christ, people talk about money, all these different things. It's very clear to me, and you don't meet a lot of men who have that intelligence and a work ethic. You see what I'm saying? Most men who are book smart, who are sound, right? They're not trying to flex and buy all these expensive things. Most men who are financially responsible and will make great husbands and great providers and can really come into your life and add something to your life. Because to me, being a provider is not just making money. It's, can you manage the money? Can you manage a household? This is not just a matter of, let me go out and get the jobs and do all these things. No, can you come back and can you manage the household? Do you have any wisdom to steward over this family? Do you have any wisdom to pour into your wife, into your kids? What are you going to be teaching our kids? What are you showing them by your day-to-day actions? Who are you? Do you even know who you are? Most of these guys do not. And so as a woman, it's going to be easy, especially today. And listen, I've been like this my whole life. I was a very thin girl. When, the age came where a lot of people was wearing makeup and stuff like that, in high school, that wasn't me. I've always loved my natural hair. I've always been pretty thin. I've always gravitated towards academia. I love intellectualism. I love education. I love learning. There's something about being enlightened. Like, isn't it so cool to learn something that you never knew before? I think that language arts and literature and culture and just how all of the subjects connect is just a very beautiful thing. That's what we're here for. Use your brain. Use your head. See, one thing that I would say that everybody needs to teach a young boy, whether it's your son, whether it's, teach little boys that they have consequences for their actions. Teach them that if they want to go out and sow their wild oats, they will be a damaged man. Teach them that if they want to live this life so aimlessly, be frolicking, doing all this really stupid, silly stuff, that they'll never become who God created them to be. Teach them discipline. That's the problem that we have today. So you have these males who don't have fathers, who don't have role models, and don't even have a sense of agency or urgency to, try to become that for the next generation. You know why? Because most men are selfish. It's a character flaw. It's really something said about it. You see, a lot of people try to talk about how the world doesn't cater to black men. That's a lie. That's a lie. When I tell you black men are more received, black men are treated a lot differently than black women in this world. And because black women are not protected, because we are disregarded, because we are abused, because our stories are not heard, you see what I'm saying? Because in regards to the women's liberation movement and the women's movement that really prioritizes white women and their problems, you know what I mean? Our cultural deficiencies and deficits and the burdens that fall onto the black women, it's not heard. One, because white women don't have those same struggles. Yeah, in terms of being women, we are there. Our white sisters, we are there. We are all women and we can all relate on that. But there is another layer to this that is a societal and cultural layer that is so uniquely tailored to the black woman that a white woman cannot relate to that. White men are not online calling their women, derogatory names because she may have been raped and has been promiscuous and has had no psychological evaluation and has nobody holding her hand and has nobody protecting her. You know how many black men have so many mothers, grandmothers who have looked out for them? I talked about this. I think I actually got rid of the video. You know how many black men have mothers who have helped them get to the league by supporting them. You know how many black men have mothers still to this day showing up for them, making sure they're eating right, taking care of their laundry, grown men from all stages of life. You know how many men right now over the age of 18 are living with their mothers? And hear me out. I understand capitalism. I'm not judging y'all. We in a different economy, but we got to talk about this lack of independence, this lack of maturity and development that's in black men. Because guess what? They got somebody holding them down. When it comes to black women, it's not the same. You know why? Because men never learned how to play their roles. So there's just so much to be said there. But yeah, man, like when it comes to Keke Palmer, I grew up watching Akilah and the Bee. I have the utmost respect for Keke. But you know what's so hard? Being a woman in this world today, a black woman, and you looking up and everyone else is getting married. Your white colleagues is getting married. They even marrying black men. He seems to act right when he get with a white woman. But when it come to you, he can't seem to give you 2 cents of respect. No sense of human decency. Always want to argue with you and combat with you. Even if he is in a position of, financial status or whatever the case may be in his externals. He just cannot seem to wrap his head around the fact that he has adopted so many social norms that he can't respect you. He can't seem to wrap his head around that. He can't seem to wrap his head around the fact that he has literally contributed to your demise in so many different ways. He can't seem to do anything but put himself first, because that's what his mom was always done. Put him first. And this don't go across the board for everybody, but I know for a fact, man, black men be having teachers, they be having mothers, grandmothers, aunts, sisters, so many women in their corner holding them down. But when I peer into the lives of black women, older women, 60, 70, so forth, ain't nobody there for us. Ain't nobody listening to what we want to talk about. Nobody's hearing us. You know why the culture's not moving forward? Because black women are the most educated and our men are not. And they don't want to learn from us. They don't want to hear from us. They don't want to, you see what I'm saying? And so guess what? This then falls back onto the black man, because black men are not out here trying to do something with their lives and for the community. Man, there's somebody I know, and this is such a common theme with black men, man. Like you want to be a somebody so bad. You want to be famous so bad. And you'll do it in the name of community. You'll say that you out here for the community, for the people, but you ain't doing nothing but promoting liquor, promiscuity. You know what I mean? You ain't helped nobody get in the position. You're not doing absolutely anything. You're not opening no doors for nobody. But you will sit there and you will let everybody line up to see what you got going on, but you won't open the doors. And that's the problem. And because our voices as black women are just not heard, it's a very tiresome battle. It's a very tiresome battle. And I just, my heart goes out to black women, especially in today's climate. We had this whole natural hair care wave. They wasn't feeling us on that. Don't tell me that it's easy to love yourself as a black woman when men ain't even checking for you. When you're a black woman and you're financially responsible, you're educated, you're sound, men don't know what to do with you. Because all they know is bumping and grumping and humping and grinding and doing all. They don't know what to do with you. They can't even engage you intellectually. Because guess what? They never had to hit the books. They got to be popular, skate through, get by, be the dope boy, get the fast money, get the girls, drop out of college. Mama stand with mama, selling dope. You know what I mean? Mama looking out for everything. She making sure you're good. So you never really had to make any hard choices. You never really had to consider school and what the next step is for you, because you didn't have that type of life. So when I tell you so many men will sit in front, bro, when I tell you it is the funniest thing ever. These guys want to be tough. They want to be heard. They want to be respected. They think they so gutta, so gangsta. These guys are coddled. They are babysitters, okay? They don't know nothing about this life thing, and they could never. And that's just on the real. Like these guys, I'm telling you, man, these guys who you be thinking who so hard working, who had to get it out the mud, it's all a facade. They didn't have to get anything out the mud. Everything was pretty much given to them. And that's just on the real. Like seriously. These men, listen, I don't know no successful man who has done the right thing and doesn't have a wife, and ain't done the right thing and they don't got a mama, a sister, a cousin, a granny, somebody in his background pouring into his cup to making sure that he can continue in his folly or do whatever else he chooses to do with his free time. So don't play me. You can't play me. You're not fooling me. Man, I'm telling you, so many of the guys you be thinking like, oh, he just so real. He's this. Because, sometimes, in the black community, you come out of stuff. Black men, if you there's a real thing in regards to black youth and criminality. That's a real thing. And, racism, prejudice, all that stuff is real. But when I tell you, it don't matter to them. That it does not affect them in the same way. But I won't negate the fact that it does affect them. Do you see what I'm saying? So many black men don't try. They don't try. And why try? I'm getting everything that I want and it's handed to me. On top of that, people are coddling me. Black women, we don't have that same liberty. The world is very hard on us, quite frankly. Quite frankly. When I tell you, I've watched so many men will pass up so many good women. Like, I'm talking about good women who are not, like Keke Palmer, prime example. Right. And I don't know her, so I'm not going to attest to, you know what I mean? Like, please understand everything that I'm making in regards to her is a very surface level reference point. I'm saying in terms of how Keke has carried herself throughout her career, her integrity, you know what I mean? And I haven't done a deep dive into her, but from what I've seen, she's always kind of been like a very upstanding young lady. You know what I mean? Like, that's kind of been like what I've seen. And when you look up and you realize like, wow, why am I not married? I've done all the things. I'm da 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 da. And you realize, and it's not incarceration, even though incarceration and homosexuality, those things play a role. It's because these guys are not, I don't want to call them bums, but like there's really a disconnect here. And even with your boy, Kevin Samuels, so many men will sit online and talk about what women are not doing. You know why? Because all you ever had was a mother. All you ever had was a mother. You didn't have a father to explain to you the sensitivities of a woman. You know, you didn't have a father explain to you the impulsivities, the emotional turmoil of a woman. You know, all you have is your reference point, and all your little ungrateful behind can do is sit and talk about what she wasn't and what she couldn't do. What did your daddy do? You never hear little boys talking about what their dads didn't do. You never hear it. They be so quick to jump on a podcast or do whatever and talk about all the things their mother was not, when she was the only one who was there. Where was your daddy? Where was your daddy? He wasn't there. He wasn't there, but he gets a pass. He gets to go on and live his life. He gets no critique. It's, oh, my mama was this, my mama was that. You have no idea what it's like to be a woman. You see what I'm saying? White women have this privilege of being able to be a woman. Nobody's expecting you to do things outside of your God-ordained purpose, your biological purpose, and your emotional capacity. You see what I'm saying? Black women are pushed to their wits on a continuous basis. You know how many times I've been so disrespected, not just by men, by women, by society. You know, it's been times I've been doing good work and I'm here to collect on pay and people treated me like I don't deserve to be paid. You know how many times I walked into rooms and people treated me like I don't deserve to be here? How many times, you know, and I've put in the work and I've done all the things. You have no idea what that's like. And I don't get to cry. You know how many times I've been out and I didn't want to give a guy my number because it's very clear that me and this guy have absolutely nothing in common. And I get called a B word. I get put down. You see what I'm saying? And I don't get to cry. I just get to go on and like live. I have to just keep a head strong and I just have to be strong minded and I just have to keep pushing and I have to go and heal and cry in the corner by myself in my alone time because ain't nobody here to hold me. Nobody's behind me holding me. Nobody's behind me comforting me, telling me, oh, no, baby, don't worry about it. You know what I mean? I don't live with my mother. You see what I'm saying? I don't have that type of relationship to where my parents are in my background supporting me. And these guys who try to rap about it, you know nothing about it. You know why? Because if you really knew something about it, you would have a whole different demeanor. Your whole attitude would be so different. You guys will be stand-ups because you know what it's like to live life. You guys is out here playing, having fun with it. You a grown boy. You don't know nothing about this life thing. So don't even try to front. But we listen to men and it sounds good and we listen to them because guess what? That's society. Right? It's a man's world. So they get the benefit of the doubt. And I'm not here to, you know, you guys know I'm not here for the feminist movements in terms of cutting one down. Because I think in regards to everything, like how we going to, you know, prevail and how we're going to have certain conversations and productive conversations if we're just constantly cutting each other down. And I think that's another thing about being a black woman. You always got to take the high road. You always got to be the better person. You always got to be the one to rise above. Ain't that what a man's supposed to do? But yet these clowns out here claiming respect. Respect you for what? Why should I respect you? And I think it's unfortunate because they don't know what it's like to be a man. So many guys today are so girly. And I mean girly, I mean like skincare and all these different things. And they doing all they listen, these men are so like, it's very unattractive. It's very unattractive. Like, and I think because the reality is that, and I tell people this, I talked about this in the column, it's a cultural difference. Black people value materialism. So the brothers who, you know, ain't even about college degrees at this point, because I'm going to be honest, you don't really learn anything in college. And that's just keep it a buck. You go to college for a better economic opportunity. So if you can get to college and you can, you know what I mean? Like, you know, become you have your job, you have your career trajectory, then that's what college is for. And I'm not here to say you're not going to learn nothing from college, because you can take something from college. Obviously, it's an institution, that's specializing in education. I never want to shy away from that, because guess what? I know that not everybody has the discipline to sit and read books. Me, I had a thirst for learning. Personally, I felt like college, intellectually, it didn't stimulate me. I'm also humble enough to admit that I might have missed my turn. I didn't really have a lot of resources for me going to college. Like, I was really alone in that process. My dad dropped me off at my dorm. It was just me. And, I got to school early. Like, we didn't really have that. You know what I mean? Nobody really sat down with me and went over colleges and talked about the things that I want to do. My dad said, you're going to school to be a doctor. That's what it was. I didn't get to tell him how I love journalism, and, you know what I mean? My mother wasn't really there. Like, she was always busy with her, you know what I mean? So it was like, I didn't really have anybody in my corner, sitting with me, telling me like, okay, you want to do journalism? Let's look into New York University, or, let's look into, Chicago. Like, let's look into these different schools. And, I think it's unfortunate, because when a woman has these conversations, and I'm expressing this sense of vulnerability, a lot of people will greet me with this attitude like, oh, you're being the victim. And I think that's so unfortunate, because in my life, I prevailed through so much. I'm such a resilient person. You know what I mean? Like, and I think it takes wisdom to really be able to discern that. I'm not going to front. There are a lot of people who have had similar background stories and so forth. And, they went off to get scholarships and have good degrees and everything. But I mean, I would say that that's like maybe not that many. I don't think people realize having somebody in your corner, especially at when you're a child, when you're a young person, pushing you, telling you you can do something, you can be somebody, like, that makes a whole difference in your life. Now, I feel pretty fine where I am in my life. I thank God I've triumphed over a lot, and I'm very grateful. I think my path was meant for what it is that I'm doing. So, it was purposeful. But my point is, that wasn't my lot. You know what I mean? And so, just really kind of bringing it full circle, because I just feel like I veered. I don't want to lose my train of thought. But it makes a difference when you have someone in your corner. And so, I don't think college is always the answer, but I do think that there's something said about education, and there's something said about reading. And that's just the one thing we don't do. And so, in regards to Black men and Black women in the Black community, we value materialism. That's why, and if you're being genuine, right? And this is why, for me, I've overcome my own racial prejudices, not just in terms of relationships and interracial dating. That's not at all where I'm going with this. Do you, but I'm saying, as far as being open-minded and allowing God to transform my heart and welcome my white brothers and sisters, because I understand that there's a difference in values within our communities. You know what I mean? And I'm not going to put one on the pedestal. We know that in white communities, a lot of times there's a value system for economics, and sometimes that value system clearly, you know what I mean, results in greed and results in exploitation. So I'm never the type of person who's going to sit here and say that Black women are Black men and white men. Like, no, that's not what I'm doing. I'm looking at this from a bird's eye view. And so outside of that, back to what I was saying in regards to Black people and Black men and Black women, when you're a Black man or a Black woman and, you're intelligent, you know what I mean? You're not dripped in the latest designers. You're not willing to spend your hard-earned money, you know what I mean, on this. You want to be a good parent. You want to be a good mother. You want to be a good father. You may give back to your community. Nobody's showing cameras on that. You don't get a camera. You don't get a platform. You don't get a lot of follows. People ain't checking for that. What they're checking for is who's the one who's going to crap on us. That's why you hear so many women, like, we listen to rappers, especially today. It's so funny. And these girls literally be sitting on stage like, y'all broke bees. And it's like, you supporting this? She talk about you. You know what I mean? Like, so it's like, it's a value system. And, like I said, just being someone who didn't really grow up that way. I didn't grow up that way. I definitely was, someone might consider like a tomboy. And I thank God that I had my experiences early on in life in terms of like, I was younger, and I've come out of that and I'm an adult in this current age, because young women who are not so sexual and so promiscuous are considered like little Black boys. Obviously they're children. So, hey, there's, a whole lot of things going on there. But just in reality, like, that's a value system that stays. And so young ladies who are respectful, who don't really want to be, playing volleyball with the little bitty shorts on, and you know what I mean? Like, for me, I wanted to play soccer. I never felt comfortable wearing certain things, like, that's not looked at as attractive. And men will they'll try to bait you. A lot of these young guys will try to bait you and come online in these platforms. And I think that's probably one of the most unfortunate things today, is because you just have so many people who are dishonest. You have so many people who are really lying to you. They're really lying to you about what they really find attractive. And so the reality is that when you're not that type of woman, you don't really get a lot of guys. You don't. And I know for me, I was very ill experienced. I felt like I needed to show up and do all these different things because, I didn't have all those dating experiences. So I'm getting advice from the girls who do, and they're giving you terrible advice. You know what I mean? So you make mistakes along the way. But I just think overall, it's definitely a value system. It's a value system, and it starts very early on. Dr. Kajufu talks about this in his old teachings. He talks about how, black kids, we get to school and it's about what kind of sneakers you got on. We're not even listening to the teacher. We're not trying to learn nothing. We're here. What kind of sneakers you got on? You know what I mean? Same thing today. People want to, they're not really listening to what you got to say. I even notice it starts very early in little kids because it starts in the household. You know what I mean? It starts in the household. And so it's like when this is why God gives us so much wisdom. It's like an instruction, train the child up in the way in which he shall go, and he shall not depart from it. So it's like you have a bunch of young children today listening to these rappers. These rappers are becoming their idols. On top of that, they can get on Instagram on their phones and see these rappers in real time, see these entertainers in real time, And that becomes the standard. And I think the most unfortunate thing about so many people who are in positions of power is that some people was never cultivated for it. That's why I say you could see so many people who will be blessed and just be jerks. You know why? Because they didn't have to work for it. They didn't get it out the mud. There was somebody who was holding their hand the whole freaking time. But these motivational messages about, work hard and be gutter, be this, be that speaks to a lot of people who did not have that privilege. And so what it's about is like capital. You know what I mean? Like it's like you can make more money if you talk about how hard it is, because it's really hard on a lot of people. But these people ain't getting platforms. People ain't listening to what they got to say. They want to see the flashiest person who probably wearing fake stuff, who probably, you know what I mean? And like, that's just kind of what it becomes. And so in our communities, there's a lot of competition because it's not a matter of a value system in terms of a person's character and in terms of how a person is, a person's kindness or anything like that. It's about materialism. And so back to, bringing this thing full circle in regards to Keke Palmer, I understand. And I'm not saying it's right, but I understand. You know what I mean? Like being in that position as a woman, the vulnerability, the sensitivity, you look up and you realize that you probably settled for this guy who, who's not even on your level. And not just externally, not just in terms of what he can do, but in terms of intellectually. We're not even equally yoked. Does this person have my spirit? Does this or the same type of spirit? Is his spirit from God? You know what I mean? What is his mindset? Like intellectually, mentally? And that's the thing. That's the reason why so many black women are single. Because it's like these guys can't keep up. I'm telling you right now, most guys cannot read beyond a 4th grade level. Like, and I'm not saying this to bash them. I'm saying this to raise awareness. Like, this is why we have to start mentoring the youth, because this is a problem. It's no way you should be a grown man and cannot function as such. That's why we have to settle. And we have this is why women settle. It's not because we're desperate for a man. It's because so many men, if we did not settle, we would not have a man. You know why? Because so many men are so mediocre. You don't really see a lot of men who are excellent. That generation has long gone. And guess what? Now that you meet brothers who are, lawyers or they're in that space, these men got the creme de la creme, cream of the crop, baby. Because it's 1 of 4. 1 of 4. And probably not even that. I know a gang of dudes right now who all of them just the same thing. On the corner every day, Henny every weekend, probably midday. You know what I mean? These guys ain't really trying to do nothing. These guys come by the boatload. So it's like, dang. And you out here dating these guys and you looking like, dang, girl, you talking to your girlfriends who she didn't, she think this is normal. And we have compassion for the sisters over here. Okay. She think it's normal. So she's like, girl, this is what's got to be, girl. Like, you can't be too Hasidity. You know what I mean? Because black women can't have standards. We can't say, I want a responsible man who, is mature, who is emotionally mature, a man of God. We can't say that. We can't hold men to those high standards. You know why? Because his mama didn't hold him to them standards. Ain't nobody in his life ever held him to them type of standards. So he gonna look at you like you're the problem. And guess what? Because he can't meet those standards, because he doesn't have the skills outside of reading on a 4th grade level. He never had anybody in his life. His daddy wasn't there. So how he gonna reach these standards? He don't even know what you're talking about. Because he can't even reason with you cognitively. And I'm not saying this to put the brothers down. I'm just saying what it is. It's not because I think for me, I'm seeing so many black women. I'm so tired of us bending over backwards for these men. And it was never designed to be this way. It's he who finds a wife finds a good thing. And I think it's unfortunate because, like I said, you have women like Keke Palmer, for example, bringing it full circle. Again, reference point. So many of our women, so many black women are good women. There's nothing. She's not too dominant. She's not arrogant. She's not all these really nasty things that people put on black people, black women specifically, who are successful. She's a good woman. But it's going to be really hard for you to meet a brother who this is what it is. And it's so many women who have become accustomed to this because this is what we're taught, right? This is what it is. And when you meet guys, you go about, girl, a plethora of dates. All of these guys are like this. All of these guys are struggling with arrested development. All of these guys have not been cultivated by somebody in their lives. All of these guys are falling short by the wayside. You start to think, okay, well, maybe it is something. Now, hold on, wait a minute. Did I get a fantasy? Did I get a fairy tale? No. That's the way God always designed it to be. And you're a woman and you know that. And he put that in your heart for a reason. And so I'm just tired of seeing black women going over backwards to prove that they're desirable. You know, I look at the situation like I feel like Keke is such a beautiful woman. And if you have a kid with a guy who, you know, doesn't have that range, he hasn't committed to you, you know, he's not intelligent enough. He's going to look at you and your body and your transformation. And he's probably not going to be attracted to it. And you know why? Because he's not a grown man. He can't even fathom. He was only here for lust anyway. So when that lust fades away and now you really need him to show up and be there for you and he can't, and you go to your girlfriends and she's like, oh, girl, just go outside, girl, meet you another one. You know how they do. Because guess what? Black women, we can't be vulnerable. We can't say, man, I'm so hurt right now. Oh, girl, you weak. You listen to men on these podcasts today. You talk about how God has given you the sensibility to even want a man. These little dusty little boys, they got the nerve. You know what I mean? And you talk about how you even want a man. These men will look at you and be like, oh, you so desperate. The nerve. It should be a privilege to be with a woman. These young men know nothing about it. And that's what they'll never become. Y'all look at, see, this is the thing too, right? Like Steve Harvey, again, reference point. Let's take it easy here. Steve Harvey talks about this. He be like, what the way he be talking is just like, it's so real and it makes so much sense. But long gone is that generation. I think what's so funny though is the reason why so many men are falling beside their potential is because they don't have that favor from God. You out here doing wrong. You ain't living right. You ain't eating right. And I'm not here to say that you need a woman. I think that would probably be an insult to your intelligence. You should learn how to take care of yourself. But I do think there's something said about being with a woman. And there's something said about the men who understand that and the potential that they've been able to, achieve in their lives. But I realize that that's a generation that's long gone because now you have a bunch of inadequate people speaking on these topics. And because of self-proclamation, anybody can get online and talk to you about a relationship or a podcast. So my thing for women would be get right with God. And I know when you're first starting out in your Christ walk and, you are in the world and you don't really have the wisdom. You're not in your word. You're putting these worldly customs and ideologies above what it is that God has said he would do for you and God's principles and all these different things. It's going to be really hard for you to believe that, you deserve something outside of that. And so hold on, y'all. Sorry, I'm like texting. I just don't want nobody to interrupt the podcast while I'm making it. It's going to be hard for you to believe that it's possible. It's going to be hard for you to believe that God is enough and that he really is like everything for you. There's this life coach that I really enjoy. Her name is Latoya Okia. And she talks about this. She was just talking about how let God be that masculine presence in your life. But that's going to be really hard to do. You get up and, the world telling you that you're masculine. I can't tell you, it's a spirit going around. I done been out a few times and I've had black men look me up and down with disgust, like attitude, real prissy. You know what I mean? So it's kind of scary out here as a woman, but we got to stay in God. We can't be fearful. And again, going back to my other point, you see how I said that on the fly? You guys, literally, black women, we don't get to be scared. We don't get to be vulnerable. We don't get to be any of those things. Because guess what? It's going to be really hard for me to sit with emotions and sit with myself. And that's why I have compassion for the sisters, because I got to get out here and I got to face the world. It should be my man who's out here facing the world. So that's why we turn our back on each other. And, I always feel like conversations can't be had simultaneously. For example, people say things like, well, what about men? I think that the problem with this is that we don't address the fact that so many men have been like, men have just not been held accountable, and I just think it's really hard. I think we have to like deal with one issue at a time. We're either going to we got to deal with the men and we got to deal with the women. But this is the thing too. I think the reason why, for me, I come hard with men in regards to like the conversations, and we do put it on men because men need to understand that you were designed to be strong. You see what I'm saying? You were designed to be, wise and strong-minded and all these different things. And I don't even want to say strong-minded because I think with strong-mindedness really comes a sense of haughtiness and arrogance. And, but I don't know. I just think for so many men, because they just ain't never seen it, again, them not giving their lives to Christ and coming into Jesus, it's hard for a lot of brothers to understand like God's plans for them and, his original purpose for them. I think so many men, because they don't give their life to Christ, because they don't mature and so forth, they don't know who they should become and what God has for them. But yeah, so in regards to women, I say let God be your male presence. I've made a lot of mistakes in my life. It's been very hard, I would definitely say, because it's been a lot of work and intentionality. But, becoming the woman that I am today, I'm so grateful. And when I look back over my life, I only want to pay it forward because it's nothing but God's grace. And, I would definitely say for any woman who's struggling with that, your sensitivities, right? God giving you a desire for marriage, or you desiring marriage, or you just simply being a woman. Like I said, Black women, we're the only women who are faulted for being a woman. White women can express their desire for marriage. They can express their desire for companionship. They can express their desire to nurture. But when it comes to Black women, we can't do that because that's seen as a weakness. And people will try to parade around and be like, oh, it's not a weakness, but it is. What the Kevin Samuels did was really put men in a position to manipulate women. He voiced his opinion in a way that was so exploitative and rooted deeply in like patriarchy and misogyny, which is pretty much the degradation of women. And what he did was put women in vulnerable positions. He talked about our beauty. He talked about how the things of the world, which is beauty, for example, are fleeting. And, he really made women feel as though like we're not enough. And that we do need to settle in terms of like, because here's the thing, it's settling. And I want to be clear about what settling is to me really quick. Settling to me is settling for someone who is unkind, settling for someone who is rude, settling for someone who is manipulative, settling for someone who is immature, settling for someone who is spiritually bankrupt, mentally bankrupt, emotionally bankrupt, settling for someone who cannot handle their finances, settling for someone who does not have the mindset to take care of a family and possibly buy a house one day or figure out how he's going to pay the rent for the next couple of months to make sure that, you know what I mean? It's settling for someone who, spends all their money on designer clothes. And you know what I mean? Like, to me, that's settling, because those are all childlike things. Like, that's settling when you're a grown woman and you're adult and you're settling for someone who's a child. And I get so sick and tired of, people always being like, oh, we all got things. Nah, because I just think there kind of comes a point where we really shouldn't be having these conversations. You know what I mean? Like, it comes to a certain point that after a certain age, certain conversations should not be had. I don't care what nobody say. You know what I mean? And I think because we live in this culture now where anything goes, left is right, right is left, everything is socially acceptable for anybody at any age. You know what I mean? This is where it comes in. We're trying to rid emotions like shame and embarrassment. That's conviction, baby. You feel shame and embarrassed when you know good and well that you should have been doing that. And you need to feel that. So that way you can realize, like, you know what? I love myself. Let me not feel that way again because of the choices that I'm making, because I'm putting myself in a position to feel this way. You see what I'm saying? So we shouldn't really try to get rid of those things because that's conviction. So anytime you feel bad, anytime God is trying to show you something in your heart, you're going against his wisdom, what he's showing you through his spirit, through your eyes. And you're sitting here telling yourself, well, we all imperfect. And, I'm not a six-figure earner. So blah, blah, blah. It's not about that. It's a matter of, can he manage his finances? Can he set a budget together for the household? Okay. Is he working on building something for the future that's sustainable? Or is he just buying designer clothes? Has he even thought about it? How many men are like that? Let's just keep it a buck. Can they manage they can't manage a household. They can't even manage themselves. So that's settling. It's not about money. And here's the thing, back to my whole thing. Stop all that. Men will tell you in a heartbeat. Real men, grown men will tell you in a heartbeat Men who don't have a purpose, who ain't got work. Adam had work. A man don't work, don't eat. That's what the Bible says that. God bless the child who can hold his own. Okay? So stop all that. See, that's the thing. We too soft on men. That's the problem. And I just think, you want to be hard on them, but men do it in the most just crazy ways. You want to give them a gun, but you don't want to discipline them and really tell them some stuff. And that's why I say, this is settling to me, because it's like, what are you going to be teaching my son? So ladies, listen, I'm just here to tell you that, your singleness is not something you should be punished for. And I'm here to hold space for your vulnerabilities and your sensitivities. And I'm here to compassionately hold space for us, because we don't get the chance to be a lady. We don't get the chance to be, you know what I mean? We don't get that. You go out a date with a brother, you got to stick up for yourself about who's going to pay for the date. Jesus Christ, when do you get to be a lady? And so I completely understand why so many women are saying they don't want to deal with men. And again, I'm not a feminist, but I do believe that you should get right with God. And I wholeheartedly believe, I didn't used to believe it when they would tell me, wait for God to see you a man, because I'd be like, oh my God, you listen to some Christian girls who then strayed away from the faith. They'll tell you things like, God's not going to see no man out the sky. And you be thinking like, oh, okay, let me try to, work with this. Let me try to work with him. Girl, it never gives that. It never gives that, girl. You end up used and abused, girl, tired, doing all the work of his mother and his father, the work that they did not do. And I think this is the thing too. When we talk about fatherlessness and inadequacy, we got to talk about this stuff with some compassion and with some merit. Don't just get on here and be talking about daddy issues and mommy issues. No, let's really sit and look at the needs of the community, because this is a problem. And so, these are conversations that most men can't have. They ain't really thought about it. All they thinking about is where's their next lay, what they gonna eat for lunch, and that's about as far as they probably thought today. You know what I mean? The next blunt, the next drink, the next, you know what I mean? Come on, call it how we see it, sisters. It's not a good look. It's not a good look. And like I said, because, you have a very small few brothers who, decide to stand up and do something with their lives. You know what I mean? They start to become haughty. They start to become high-minded. You know what I mean? I believe that God can do a work in anybody. God has done an amazing work in me. But one thing I know for sure, nobody had to beat God down my throat. You know what I mean? Nobody had to force me to speak life and to speak, you know what I mean? Like, nobody had to force me to drink from the Bible. You know what I mean? Like, nobody had nobody cultivated a thirst for God and his wisdom and his plans for me. You know what I mean? Nobody had to do that. Nobody had to force me to eat of Christianity. You see what I'm saying? So, I'm all here for praying for your brother, and I'm all here for trying to uplift him to the best of your ability. But, babe, I'm just going to be honest with you. Like, you're going to have to see some type of initiative. You're going to have to be able to see, is he really willing to? And here's another thing, too. And I want to end with this. Stop listening to men in regards to women. I'm telling you right now, I really feel like as women, if we would just collectively put these podcasters, I'm talking every life coach, I don't care what he on. All of them. And we would really put them out of business. I was listening to someone I had followed for quite some time, and I remember when I first was watching this person's videos, and I like to really kind of look into I like to peer into, I like to watch for a extended period of time to see if this person's going to be consistent or not. And, I was just listening to, their commentary, and I remember before when I would listen to this person, their words would be so harsh. The things that they would say would be so harsh, and the way they would go about speaking about women's issues and the mistakes we make with men were so harsh. And they would do it, supposedly in good faith. They would claim to be a Christian and so forth. But I started to realize that this person does not have anointing in this area. And I started to realize that it's no way you can work with women and understand the complexities of womanhood, the emotional states of women, the vulnerable states of women, right? Understanding that, this person was a life coach. They were working with women. They talked about molestation and things like that. There is no way that as a man, you can sit and work with these women and then in the same breath, turn around and shame women for their sexual behavior, or turn around. And here's the thing too, outside of the unanointed delivery of these life coaches, they don't empower you. It's not empowering to hear someone tell you that you made these mistakes and guys are looking at you like this. That's not empowering. And one thing I know for myself, man, I'm so humbled, and I wouldn't change my life for anything. I really wouldn't. I've been graced. I've been blessed, and I have so much compassion for myself. I don't think that Anybody who talks about me personally could never walk a mile in my shoes. And one thing I know about like people who really been through stuff, people who y'all really try to like admire, like, you see these rappers, they try to come out and they try to talk this talk about, all this, they try to talk themselves up like they're a good person. People who roll like that, they don't do certain things. And you can look at that person's actions. You see what I'm saying? So like, don't listen to men. And I don't want to say don't listen to all men, but I mean, I'm just being honest. Like, it's getting to the point where these relationship coaches, all of them, I'm not excluding anybody, all of them, it's about money. It's about capital. Because here's the thing, if you really care to fix what's going on in the community, you would take all that energy and you would go and you would speak to young men. Because here's the thing, I'm a woman. I know what it is to be a woman. I know what it is to be a young girl. Why, as a man, are you spending your entire life, your entire time, effort, and energy, especially if you're married, coaching other women, coaching them through what? You don't even have the sensitivity. And don't get me wrong, we appreciate a kind word. And I will never sit here and say that as throughout the years of watching these men's platforms, I didn't get anything from it. I understand that I'm in a different season in my life, but I also am aware of the spirit that's going around today. And I'm also aware that I've seen certain faults within these men and their teaching and their insensitivity. It's in regards to womanhood, in regards to being a young lady who has had certain experiences. Like, I just think that they miss it on that mark and they're not anointed in these areas. And I really believe that if women just stop supporting them, they would be out of business and this would be the end of it. I believe that women need to speak to women and men need to go speak to men. Period. That's the end of it. Go teach little boys how to become. Go teach other men who want to learn how to become men, how to do that. You know what someone told me? They said, oh no, if I was to make videos and dedicate my business to women, they didn't tell me this, but they said this online. They were like, if I was to dedicate my videos to men, the men wouldn't listen to it. So that to me sounds like this is about profit. And we know that black women especially, we are some of the highest consumers. Why? Because we always sold a message that we ain't enough. Oh, girl, what? We need a relationship coach because as a woman, we doing something wrong instead of really sitting here addressing everything that I just talked about in this podcast, literacy and so forth. Matter of fact, I think one of the coaches that I'm talking about, they don't even have the intellectual merit. They don't even have the ability to cognitively reason. You know what I mean? In terms of what are the communal issues and what are the problems that persist within our community because of racism, deprivation, you know what I mean? And a lack of opportunity in healthy role models. They can't even fathom that. Because I know for a fact, if you could, you wouldn't spend so much time telling women how they're doing wrong things in relationships. Don't get me wrong. Everybody has a season. We appreciated the Steve Harvey, act like a lady, think like a man. I found it to be very insightful, quite frankly. But at the same time, there just comes a point where it's like, defund these platforms. Stop listening to these guys. They over here telling you how you ain't going to get a man because you done made these choices. How can they speak to that? How does that make you feel when you walk away from their content? They don't make you feel empowered. And like I said, my thing is this. I'm not even really here to critique entirely like their platforms and their bases because I do feel like I got something from it when I used to watch it. But I will say that you need to spend all that time and energy helping men because you see what's going on out here. But because your pockets is important, you're not taking the time to do what really needs to be done. So please spare me. You know what I mean? Spare me. And so there you have it, girl. I think I'm all winded at this point, but let God be that presence in your life, like LaToya Okia said. And that's a real thing because you just realize like nobody's worth it. I'm telling you. Let me not generalize. That was a generalization and I spoke too fast. There is a man that God has for you. I believe that. And, for me, I remember I was even just sitting asking God, like, do you want me to be married? Like, I had a experience in my life where, I was treated so badly and I was like, I'm not doing this. I was like, I'm going to focus on my career. I remember I was like 21, 19. I was so hurt. I had went through so much, you know what I mean? And I was like, I'm just going to focus on my career. I'm just going to focus on my career. I'm not doing this. I'm moving to New York and, I'm going to be content. And when I tell you my mind was made up, when I tell you it wasn't one of those hurt things of like, oh, I'm just talking. When I tell you, I felt like the conviction was so strong. It was sudden. It was instant. I knew in that moment when I left that situation, I was like, oh, if this is how men treat women, Listen, I said, this is it. I don't want this. I'm done. I said, I'm just going to focus on my career. And, so crazy. I ended up meeting someone, and I really feel like this person put the desire for marriage in my heart. And it was so crazy. I feel like God had sent them to me just on a random. And after that, I started thinking about marriage and just growing in Christ and everything. But I still, to this day, I'm like, listen, God, if that's what you have for me, cool. But if not, I'm cool with that too. And this is not coming from a place of hurt. This is coming from a place of peace. I think that men have been taught that that we can't live without them. And I just think it's interesting because God has ordained. God said Adam is the rib. So we're His rib. So like, how can you? I guess we can all live without a rib and we can all be incomplete. But one thing I know for sure is like, don't settle. Don't settle. Like, I'm telling you, this foolishness that's going on out here today and this pressure that's being put on women. And I think that's why I'm having a lot more compassion for women, not just in terms of like consumerism and, vanity and all these different things. Like, I'm not, obviously. But I'm having so much compassion for women. And even with Keke Palmer, like, I want to speak to the realism of that and how it's just not appropriate. But I also just think that overall, like, I have so much compassion for women because as I am a woman, I'm telling you, man, it's not easy. Like, it's literally not easy being a woman. Like, the disrespect it's crazy. And you never get the opportunity to cry. You get with your girlfriends, you got to be like, oh girl, he was this, he was that, da, 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 popping off at the mouth. But you can't be like, man, like, I'm really hurt. Like, he really, like, cause here's the thing, your girlfriends, we all in survival mode. She's like, girl, you gotta go get a bag. You gotta go do this. You gotta go do that. You gotta da, 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 cause it's like, we gotta keep it pushing. Cause if we don't keep it pushing, girl, we don't know. Right? Cause we don't have that opportunity to kind of sit and be a lady. We gotta always be on the go. Cause listen, this is all we got. We all we got. You know what I mean? So it's like, you don't get the opportunity to kind of just like sit. And that's why, I critiqued soft life, but if I'm understanding it from this perspective, I understand and I have compassion for it and I respect it. And I like that for us. For me, after, having been hurt and everything, like I said, I was like, I'm going to New York. I'm going to do this. I was in a very fast paced stuff. And I just thank God because, girl, who knows? I probably was riding with Satan at that point. But I feel like ever since I've decided to change my life and given my life to Christ, I'm so at peace. I don't feel this need to, go out and like achieve the world. You know what I mean? Conquer the world. I don't feel that need anymore. I'm so content with who I am and where I am. And I'm so content with my life. Like where I am right now, I'm so grateful. I don't want anything more than this. When I tell you I'm so content and I'm so grateful to be able to steward over this, I've come such a long way, girl. Just a little testimony, girl. I used to be late on every job. And I would say that a part of me couldn't keep a job because I always knew I was gifted and, my mind and everything, which is like the way I would think and stuff. But I think a big part of it was because I just was curious. But looking back, either way, not to get into it, I was really irresponsible. I remember just being so careless with my money. I remember being careless with everything, bills, girl, just everything. And, fast forward being in the space that I am in now, I'm so grateful. Like I'm truly, truly grateful. Like I have come a very, very long way. And like, you just got to celebrate those small wins. And I think that it's unfortunate because I think like as a woman, you typically allocate certain things to a man, you do want to become whole and competent, like self-sufficient. But like, I just find myself feeling every aspect of my life. And it's like, I feel like that's the unfortunate cost of like this whole movement of self-love and this forceful nature that forces women to forego their nurturing instincts and our intuitive, or just God making us to be nurturers, right? So it's like, instead of me having certain things where I'm like, oh, I just kind of want to be a mom and I want to be a wife and I want to be all these things. It's like, I feel like I'm being forced to fill my life up with so much that like, I don't feel the purpose of a man. And I talked about this. Like I said, listen, the way this culture is with self-love, I said, if I have to get everything by myself, what makes you think I would want to share that with another person? Now, this perspective can change. I may get to a certain point where I realize, like, okay, you look back, hindsight, it's a lesson. You realize, like, okay, what mental state was I in? But I knew for myself, just seeing how there's such an unwillingness and how there's an unwillingness to help a woman, a Black woman, and how there's just this unwillingness to provide for us, and how there's a disregard for us, our presence, our intelligence, just the whole nine. It's like, it's going to be really hard for you to love somebody when you had to get everything by yourself. It's going to be hard for you to feel a need for a relationship. And I think that's really where a lot of successful women are single. Me personally, I don't feel like it's always rooted in, them being haughty and them thinking that they don't need a man and popping off at the mouth. I think it's because, you try to make it work with guys along the way. You trying to be a wife, you trying to, you trying to do right, help him, and, y'all can work together. But so many of these men don't look at you like that. They treat you like an opponent, and they really treat you like a second-class citizen. You know what I mean? They don't look at you and think wife. They don't look at you and think honorable. And it ain't nothing you doing other than their own internalized bias from racism and, slavery and so forth. Just being in this country, it's like, if beauty and vanity is all that men are caught up on, then the white woman is the European standard for beauty. You know what I mean? So it's like, it's going to be really hard for him to look at you and you know what I mean? So I just think that I find myself feeling every aspect of my life like, okay, finances, you know what I mean? And you just kind of get to a point where you look up and you're like, why do I need to be in a relationship? And I think that that's where so many women have been forced into. And I think it's unfortunate because, men will take this narrative and be like, oh, I had to get it out the mud. You didn't, though. Your grandmother, your mother, I'm telling you guys, I know the real lives of these men. They got some women in their corner. But with Black women, it's like, no, you really had to acquire every resource by yourself. Like, you got way more to lose, versus like this man who, he's always had someone aiding him in every aspect of his life, So, I mean, I'm just being honest. Like, I think that there's really something said about that dynamic. And, that's why I kind of critique self-love culture, because it's like, it really teaches you that, if you desire a partner, they try to tell you, like, you need to just go love yourself. And I always felt like if I loved myself, then how can I, if I love me, how can I make room to love you? You know what I mean? Like, I'm full. Like, you see what I'm saying? And I don't think people realize that. So there may be some truth to, what people say in regards to Black women and women in general, how women start making money and they don't feel like they need a man, right? Because men didn't typically used to bring certain values like that. Like, a man would provide for you, but he would show up for you. If he was working, he was really kind of in that space where it's like purposeful, and he could be there for you emotionally, and he would be like, oh, sweetie, like, you know what I mean? Like, he kind of had that soft touch with you, but like, that wasn't his nature. But now men are, they're doing the emotional work, right? So it's like they're showing up, and it's like their emotions matter, and they're like, you know what I mean? I'm not saying it don't matter, but I'm just saying, like, this is kind of what happens when the roles reverse. Like, you no longer find a need for a person, and you want to understand like gender abolition, but like at the same time, it's like, yeah, no, because things worked when it was traditionalism, you know what I mean? But I just think that so many of us are really being forced to, play our own hand at this life thing. And like, I just know for me, and for so many other women, when you really start to like pour into yourself and give yourself everything, it's going to be really hard for you to be in a relationship, because it's like you built everything on your own. But I think that for so many Black women, we are absolutely forced to be in that space. We don't get that, right? Like, white women, other women of different, like, you know what I mean? One, their men are getting different opportunities. So obviously economically there's a factor. But two, these women have the opportunity to, get married young, and really work to cultivate a life with someone and build that fairy tale thing that we see in the movies. You know what I mean? And it's not perfect. It's not perfect. We understand that women are coming out and talking about how these men have been very, wrong towards them. But I'm just saying that they have an opportunity. We never get that opportunity. You know what I mean? We don't get that opportunity. So, the stakes are higher. And, you've been alone for so long. You love yourself so much. It's going to be hard for you to kind of extend that to somebody else, because you can't, you at this point, your stuff don't stink. You know what I mean? How can it? Who's tools? You know what I mean? And I think that that's the reality of self-love culture. And so I don't really have the answers. Actually, yes, I do. I think that the solution to all of this is to really give your life to Christ, like, and just really fill yourself with God's wisdom and God's love, because I'm telling you right now, it's going to be a new thing tomorrow. And as you can see, this world has shifted. I don't think we realize how we went from entertainers being on stage to women walking outside naked, Black women only. It's changing drastically. Like, everything is changing. So in the next few years, who knows, right? We went from men, being, garbage workers, men working in plants, men, you know what I mean? Men being school teachers, all these different things, to men really being in this childlike, never ending state of just like hypersexuality and a lack of intelligence, a lack of discipline, overly emotional, extremely reactive, so it's like men are no longer safe anymore because they're malfunctioning. So we are in a very different space. And that's why I say give your life to Christ. Because one thing I know about this world, girl, it's ever changing. And the way Satan is scheming right now, oh, girl, get right. And be blessed. And, ask God, do he want you to be married? This podcast is getting ready to end. But ask God, what's his plans for your life? And stay in his will, okay? You don't need to go outside of it.